Dear students, good afternoon. In this lecture, we will discuss about the lower respiratory tract. Following objectives will be covered in this lecture. Parts of the respiratory tract. Structurally, the respiratory tract is divided into upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. As you see in the picture, the upper respiratory tract includes nasal cavity, pharynx and larynx. On the other hand, the lower respiratory tract, it includes trachea, the principal bronchi and its divisions, and finally it leads to the lungs. Functionally, the respiratory tract, it is divided into conducting part and respiratory part. As the name suggests, conducting part is involved in the conduction of air towards the respiratory part. It includes from the level of nasal cavity up to the terminal bronchioles. So here you can see portion is outside the lung, which is called extrapulmonary part, and portion within the lung, which is called intrapulmonary part. The extrapulmonary part begins from the level of nasal cavity and ends up to the level of principal bronchi. So intrapulmonary portion begins from the branching of principal bronchi and extends up to the level of terminal bronchiole. Below the level of terminal bronchiole, you can see the respiratory part, which means the respiratory part begins from the respiratory bronchioles. Thereafter, it continues into alveolar ducts, alveolar sacs and alveoli. So these are the parts where you can see the exchange of gases. That is why it is classified under respiratory part. As you see in the picture here, you can see the highlighted portion is the respiratory part. So up to this level, from the level of nasal cavity up to the terminal bronchiole, this whole thing is the conducting part, and this portion is your the respiratory part, where exactly the exchange of gases takes place. After knowing a brief introduction regarding the parts of the respiratory tract, both structural classification and functional classification, so we talk about the actual topic of the lecture, which is the lower respiratory tract. As you know, it includes trachea, bronchi and lungs. Regarding trachea, we already taught you in the head and neck lecture. So in this lecture we will straight away do the lungs and also the bronchial tree. So here we talk about the lungs. You can see in the picture the positioning of the two lungs, which are situated in the thoracic cavity, and they are separated by the mediastinum structures. So here you can see the right lung, and here you can see the left lung. So each lung is conical in shape. As you know, any conical shaped structure presents apex, base, and it presents two surfaces and three borders. We will see the surfaces and borders in the coming slide. We discuss about each surface feature of the lung in detail. We'll begin with apex. As you see in the picture, the apex is protruding into the root of the neck above the level of thoracic inlet. Hope all of you remember the boundaries of thoracic inlet. And this apex is covered by the cervical pleura, and outside the cervical pleura you have the suprapleural membrane. The summit or the highest point of the apex of the lung is located approximately 2.5 centimeters above the medial end of the clavicle. Here I will show you, this is the medial end of the clavicle. So the highest point of the apex is located about 2.5 centimeter above this level. Hope you understood. So here this you can see the thoracic inlet which is bounded by the first rib. So the apex is protruding above the level of thoracic inlet. Base, you can see here, it is semilunar and concave, and it is lying on the upper surface of diaphragm. All of you, we think that the lungs are situated completely in the thoracic cage, but now at least you should remember that the apex is protruding into the root of the neck. Since it is protruding into the root of the neck, if there is any stab or bullet wound at the root of the neck, that leads to pneumothorax due to the damage of cervical pleura. Hope you understood. Costal surface, as you see in the picture, this is the costal surface, which is smooth and convex, and you can see the impressions here. These impressions are for the ribs and costal cartilages. So wherever you see the depression, that is the impression for the rib, and elevations are related to intercostal spaces. And here this is the medial surface. The medial surface has two parts. The anterior, the wider part is called mediastinal part, or you can say mediastinal surface, and the posterior small portion is called vertebral part. So the posterior vertebral part, as the name suggests, it is related to vertebrae and intervertebral discs, whereas the mediastinal surface, it is related to various mediastinal structures. And also here you can see the positioning of hilum within the mediastinal surface. We talk about in detail regarding the mediastinal surface in the coming slide. Structures related to mediastinal surface of right lung. As I mentioned in the previous slide, the mediastinal surface related to various mediastinal structures which produce impressions on the surface. So we talk about each impression. First, there is a big impression here, you can see in the posterior part of the mediastinal surface. This impression is the hilum. This is the hilum. So within the hilum you can see the structures of root of the lung. What are the structures of root of the lung? We'll see in the next slide. Above the hilum you can see a impression. This is the impression for the trachea. This is the impression for the trachea. In front of the trachea there is an impression for the superior vena cava. So there is an impression for the superior vena cava. If you trace this superior vena caval impression, so there is a impression here above the hilum in the form of a arch. So this is the place where the right lung related to arch of azygous vein. Next, here above the hilum and behind the trachea impression, you can see the impression of esophagus. So it extends from the apex till the level of base. This whole impression behind the hilum and behind the trachea is the impression for the esophagus. Below and in front of the hilum, here you can see a big impression. This is the place where the right lung related to the heart, particularly the right atrium and right ventricle, and collectively it is called cardiac impression. And in the lower part close to the base there is an impression for the inferior vena cava. So these are the impressions that you see in the mediastinal surface of right lung, and each impression I have labeled clearly. So even I will be showing these impressions in the practical videos of the lung from the plastinated and cadaveric specimen. What are the structures related to the mediastinal surface of left lung? So here you can see this is the left lung. So here also you can see a impression of hilum in the posterior part with the structures of root of the lung. Behind the hilum you can see impression for the descending thoracic aorta. In simple you can also say descending aorta. And above the hilum you can see the impression for the arch of aorta. As you know, arch of aorta continues as descending aorta. In front of the descending aorta impression, here you can see the impression for the esophagus. This is the impression of esophagus. Next, above the hilum, in continuation with the impression of arch of aorta, here you can see the impression of left subclavian artery. This is the impression of left subclavian artery. And here just exactly in front and in the upper part you can see the pulmonary trunk impression. This is the impression of pulmonary trunk. And in front of the hilum, bit lower part, you can see a huge impression. This is the impression of this is the impression formed by the heart. So particularly it is related to again right ventricle and left ventricle. So collectively it is called again the cardiac impression. Hope you understood the impressions of mediastinal surface of left lung. Borders of the lung. As you see in the picture, each lung presents three borders: anterior border, posterior border and inferior border. The anterior border, it is thin and straight in the right side lung. On the left side it is thin and it shows in the lower part a deviation which is called cardiac notch due to the presence of heart towards the left side. The anterior border, it occupies the costo-mediastinal recess. Recess is a space, and as the name suggests, this space is present between costal and mediastinal parts of parietal pleura. More details regarding this will be discussed in the next lecture. The inferior border, it extends or it occupies another space of pleural cavity, which is the extension of pleural cavity located between the costal part and a diaphragmatic part of parietal pleura, and the name of this space is costodiaphragmatic recess. So the inferior border, it is located or it occupies the costodiaphragmatic recess. The posterior border, it is thick and it is related to the heads of the ribs. Lung fissures and lobes, we discussed this already in the introduction to anatomy lecture. Here you can review it. The right lung, it presents oblique fissure and horizontal fissure, due to which the right lung is divided into three lobes: upper lobe, middle lobe and lower lobe. But on the left side there is only one fissure, that is the oblique fissure, which divides the left lung into the upper lobe and lower lobe. The upper lobe, in the lower part, it presents a tongue-like projection. As you see in the picture, this is a tongue-like projection located just below the cardiac notch. So this projection is called lingula. Root of the lung, it is formed by the structures which are entering and leaving at the hilum of the lung. So this is the hilum of the lung. So here you can see the entrance of or entering of the principal bronchus and also the pulmonary artery, and also you can see the leaving of your pulmonary veins. On each side you can see two pulmonary veins, superior pulmonary vein and inferior pulmonary vein. All these structures which are there at the hilum of the lung constitute the root of the lung. It connects lung with the mediastinum, in the mediastinum particularly with the heart and trachea. The entire root on each side, it is surrounded by the mediastinal pleura. I already mentioned in the root of the lung you can see the principal bronchi, and on each side you can see one principal bronchus. Then you can see the pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. Close to the bronchi you can see the bronchial artery and bronchial veins. You can see some lymphatics and pulmonary plexus. How these structures are arranged in the root of the lung we will see in the next slide. After knowing the structures in the root of the lung, and now we will see how they are arranged. It is important because in each individual the position and arrangement of the structure is constant. So while performing any surgical procedures on these structures, so knowing the position is very important. So we will see them. So first you can see here, this is a schematic picture of hilum of right lung and hilum of left lung, and within the hilum you can see the structures of the root. This is anterior and here is the posterior. So we will trace the structures first above downwards, then we will trace anterior to posterior. Above downwards, if you see, you have on the right side eparterial bronchus always first. Just below that you can see what? You can see the pulmonary artery. Below the pulmonary artery you can see hyparterial bronchus, which means below the artery there is a bronchus, so it is named as hyparterial bronchus. Then you can see inferior pulmonary vein. So this is the arrangement of structures in the hilum of the right lung or in the root of the right lung from above downwards. Anterior to posterior, most anteriorly what you see is superior pulmonary vein. This is the superior pulmonary vein. Behind that you can see the pulmonary artery, and most posterior structure is bronchus. So bronchus is the most posterior structure. So this is about right root of the lung. Now we will move on to left root of the lung. In the left root of the lung, from above downwards if you trace, what you see is the pulmonary artery above. Below the pulmonary artery you can see the bronchus, which is the principal bronchus. Below that you can see the inferior pulmonary vein. So the arrangement of structures, it is different on the left side, because on the right side the principal bronchus divides into two divisions. One goes above the artery, one goes below the artery. But on the left side you don't see such a division of the bronchus, the left principal bronchus. Because of this you see the position of the principal bronchus just below the pulmonary artery. Hope you understood the difference. Now from anterior to posterior, if you see, the most anterior one is the superior pulmonary vein. Behind that you can see the pulmonary artery, and most posteriorly you can see the bronchus. So this is the arrangement of structures in the root of the left lung. The bronchial tree, we discussed this already in the introduction to anatomy. Briefly, the trachea bifurcates at the level of sternal angle into right principal bronchus and the left principal bronchus. The right principal bronchus, it is wider and shorter comparatively, and it is in more line with the trachea compared to the left principal bronchus. It is more vertical, the right principal bronchus, whereas the left principal bronchus more oblique, and it is also narrower. So due to the positional difference of right principal bronchus and left principal bronchus in relation to the trachea, so whenever you inhale foreign particles, they are more likely to enter into the right bronchus and into the right lung. That is the reason the infections are more common in the right lung compared to the left lung. I'll repeat, the right principal bronchus, it is in more line with the trachea, because of which always the inhaled foreign particles are more likely to enter into the right bronchus and then into the right lung. So if you trace the further divisions of a bronchial tree, each principal bronchus next divides into lobar bronchi, which are the secondary bronchi. So here you can see on the right side 1, 2 and 3 lobar bronchi, whereas on the left side you can see there are only 2 lobar bronchi, as you know, upper lobar bronchus and lower lobar bronchus. Each lobar bronchus or secondary bronchus further divides and forms segmental bronchi. So you can see here these are the segmental bronchi. So these are the segmental bronchi. Then each segmental bronchus will further continue to divide and forms bronchioles, and the lowermost division of bronchiole is the terminal bronchiole. So here you can see this is the terminal bronchiole. So this terminal bronchiole further divides and forms the respiratory bronchiole. I mean to say the lowermost division is the respiratory bronchiole, and just before that what you see the portion of the bronchiole is the terminal bronchiole. The respiratory bronchiole further divides into alveolar duct. Each alveolar duct will form the alveolar sac. Within each alveolar sac you can see numerous alveoli. So this is about the branching of bronchi, or you can say in simple words the bronchial tree. Difference between bronchus and bronchiole. So here I brought you the microscopic structure of bronchus and bronchiole. The moment when you see the diameter of bronchus is more compared to the bronchiole, that is the first difference. And other structural differences, if you see, the bronchus has cartilage in the wall. You can see here, you can see the plates of hyaline cartilage you can see in the bronchus, whereas in the wall of the bronchiole you don't find any plates of cartilage. That is a second difference. And the third difference, if you see here, in the wall of bronchus you can see the presence of smooth muscle. However, the quantity is less, but in the bronchiole the quantity of smooth muscle it is more. Due to the presence of more smooth muscles, the mucous membrane or epithelium of bronchiole shows foldings in the bronchioles. I mean to say they shows more foldings in the bronchiole compared to the bronchus. So these are the differences that you see between the bronchus and bronchiole. Bronchial tree can be visualized for the diagnostic and therapeutic purpose using bronchography or bronchoscopy. Bronchography is a radiological technique where the respiratory passages are visualized after coating air passages with the contrast medium. On the other hand, the bronchoscopy is a endoscopic technique where an instrument is introduced into the air passages either through the nose or mouth to visualize the bronchial tree. Bronchitis is the inflammation of the lining epithelium of the bronchi. So in case of chronic bronchitis, you can see thick mucus with the inflamed lining, and here the cilia will not function. So as you see in the picture, so here you can see a thick mucus within the bronchus, and here also you can see the non-functioning or damaged cilia in case of bronchitis. Bronchopulmonary segment. It is the anatomical, functional and surgical unit of the lung. How will you define the segment? The bronchopulmonary segment. It is a portion of the lung which is aerated or supplied by the segmental bronchus. You can see here in the picture, this is a schematic picture of one bronchopulmonary segment. This segment is aerated by the segmental bronchus. So by the definition, the portion of the lung which is aerated or supplied by the segmental bronchus is called bronchopulmonary segment. What is the shape of this segment? It is conical or pyramid in shape, as you see in the picture, with apex is directing towards the hilum of the lung, whereas the base is directing on the surface. The two adjacent segments are separated by a connective tissue septa. This connective tissue septa is called intersegmental septa. Within each segment, what you see? Of course, obviously you can see a segmental bronchus. You can see here, this is a segmental bronchus. So close to the segmental bronchus, what you see is bronchial artery, which provides nutrition to the bronchial tree. And next you can see the important structure, which is the pulmonary artery. Remember, always the pulmonary artery runs along with the bronchus. And also you can see some lymphatics and nerves within the segment. Now within the intersegmental septa, by the name, the connective tissue between the two segments is called intersegmental septum. So within the septum you can see a structure here. This red color structure is the intersegmental vein. Since it carries oxygenated blood, it is shown with the red color. So the intersegmental septa is the place where you can see the course or positioning of pulmonary veins. So each segment, it drains into the two pulmonary veins. So here you can see one pulmonary vein and you can see the another pulmonary vein. Hope you understood. In each lung, how many bronchopulmonary segments are present? So there are 10 segments are situated in each lung. So there are 10 segments on the right side, 10 segments on the left side. You can see the clearly the labeling of the labelings of the structures of bronchopulmonary segments, which are there within the segment, and some structure, particularly the pulmonary vein, it is located in the intersegmental septum. This is another picture to show you the contents of bronchopulmonary segment. So here you can see one bronchopulmonary segment where you can see the segmental bronchus and its further divisions up to the level of alveoli, and close to the bronchus always you can see the pulmonary artery, and in the intersegmental plane what you see is the pulmonary vein. This is the pulmonary vein. So hope you understood. So here you can see the list of bronchopulmonary segments in the right lung and also in the left lung. So on the right lung, the upper lobe consists of 3 segments. You need to remember the names. What are those? Apical segment, posterior segment and anterior segment. So they are named based on their positions. I will show you in the next slide. In the middle lobe there are two segments. They are medial segment and lateral segment. In the lower lobe there are 5 segments. What are those? Apical segment, medial basal segment, lateral basal segment, anterior basal segment and posterior basal segment. So there are 10 segments on the right lung. Now we'll move on to the left lung. As you know, there are only 2 lobes in the left lung, upper lobe and lower lobe. In the upper lobe you have 5 segments. What are those? Apical, posterior, anterior, superior lingular and inferior lingular segments. The lower lobe consists of 5 segments. The names are exactly same with the names of lower lobe. What are those? The names: apical segment, medial basal segment, anterior basal segment, posterior basal segment and lateral basal segment. So it is important to know the names of the segments in each lobe of right lung and left lung. This is the picture of lungs showing the bronchopulmonary segments in each lobe. So here you can see the right lung, here you can see the left lung. So in each lobe we can see the bronchopulmonary segments. So at present, for your level, just know the names. You need not to identify exactly where is anterior segment, where is posterior segment and so on. I mean, you need not to identify the segments in the lung or in the picture, but you should know the names of the segments. We discuss clinical anatomy related to the bronchopulmonary segments. The infections within the lung cannot spread from one segment to another segment because of presence of the thick connective tissue in the intersegmental septa. In simple words, the intersegmental septa prevents the spreading of infection from one segment to another segment. However, there is an exception where the tuberculosis can spread from one segment to another segment. The lung abscesses are more common in the apical segment of lower lobe and also the posterior segment of upper lobe. This is due to the reason that these segments are more in line with the hilum of corresponding lungs. That is the reason these segments are more prone to infection. The segmental anatomy also helps the surgeon while draining the infectious fluid from the segments and also while removing the affected or infected segment from the lung. I'll repeat. So knowing the position of the segment is very important while removing the diseased segment from the lung and also while draining the infectious fluid from the affected bronchopulmonary segment. So while performing the surgical resection or surgical removal of the affected bronchopulmonary segment, the surgeon will work on the along with the pulmonary vein. In other words, the pulmonary vein position guides the surgeon while performing the surgical resection of bronchopulmonary segment. Hope you understood. Respiration consists of 3 steps. You would have studied these steps in detail in the introduction to physiology. Pulmonary ventilation or breathing includes the inhalation and exhalation of air. Here you can see exchange of air between the atmosphere and the alveoli of lung. Pulmonary respiration or external respiration. Here you can see the exchange of gases between the alveoli and blood. The final step is the internal respiration or tissue respiration. The exchange of gases takes place here between systemic capillaries and tissue cells. We'll see the structure of alveoli and interalveolar septum. Alveoli, as you know, they are the functional units of the lung filled with the air. So they are lined by alveolar epithelium, which is the simple squamous epithelium, as you know. It consists of two types of cells. They are called pneumocytes or alveolar cells. The majority of the cell type is called type 1 alveolar cell. It constitutes approximately 97% of alveolar surface. The main function is the gaseous exchange. The other type is the type 2 alveolar cell. It makes up 3% of alveolar surface. The main function is production of surfactant. The surfactant reduces the surface tension of alveolar cell so that it prevents the collapse of alveoli. And also the surfactant possesses bactericidal function, means which kills the bacteria. Exchange of gases takes place between the air in the alveolus and also the blood in the pulmonary capillary. The pulmonary capillary is located in the interalveolar septum. So there is a barrier exists between these two components. So such barrier is called air-blood barrier. So what are the components of this barrier? We'll see from the diagram. Here you can see the air-blood barrier. So we can trace from alveolus towards the pulmonary capillary. So first what you can see is the coating of surfactant on the surface of type 1 epithelial cell. Then you can see the type 1 epithelial cell. Then you can see its basement membrane or basal lamina. Then immediately deep to that what you see is the basal lamina of endothelial cell or capillary endothelium. You can see here. Then you can see what you can see the endothelial cell. So these are the components of air-blood barrier. However, few places between the two basal lamina you can see the additional layer, which is a layer of connective tissue in the interalveolar septum. So this is considered as a thick portion. Without this layer of connective tissue is considered as thin portion of air-blood barrier. Hope you understood. So there is a communication exists between the two adjacent alveoli through the alveolar ports. So you can see the position of alveolar ports. Blood supply to the lung. Conducting portion of the lung is supplied by the bronchial vessels, whereas the respiratory portion is supplied by the pulmonary vessels. The bronchial arteries, on the left side there are two in number and they arise from the descending thoracic aorta. You can see the superior left bronchial artery and inferior left bronchial artery. On the right side there is only one bronchial artery. This is the right bronchial artery. It arises from right third posterior intercostal artery. So the right bronchial artery is a branch of right third posterior intercostal artery. The bronchial veins on the right side drain into azygous vein. On the left side drain into hemiazygous veins. As you know, the pulmonary arteries are the branches of pulmonary trunk which arises from right ventricle, whereas the pulmonary veins, there are two on each side of the lung, and finally all the four pulmonary veins terminate into the left atrium, particularly in the posterior wall. Lymphatic drainage of the lung. So the lymphatics of the lung are arranged into two plexus, superficial plexus and deep plexus. The superficial plexus are located deep to the visceral pleura, due to which it is named as subpleural lymphatic plexus. I can see here they drain into finally bronchopulmonary lymph nodes. You can see here these are the bronchopulmonary lymph nodes. The deep plexus, they travel along the bronchial and pulmonary vessels into bronchopulmonary lymph nodes. Lymph from these lymph nodes immediately drains into tracheobronchial nodes. From there they finally drains into bronchomediastinal lymphatic trunks. So this is the lymphatic drainage of lungs. Lungs are supplied by the pulmonary plexus, which are located at the root of the lung. You can see here the pulmonary plexus. They are formed by the sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers. Sympathetic fibers come from upper 4 or 5 thoracic ganglia of sympathetic chain. They produce bronchodilation and vasoconstriction. The parasympathetic fibers are given by the vagus nerve, and these fibers produce bronchoconstriction, vasodilatation, and also they increases the glandular secretion. The pulmonary examination includes inspection, palpation, auscultation and percussion, details of which will be discussed in the living anatomy session of thorax with the help of YouTube links. So timing, remember, auscultation is performed to assess airflow in the lungs. Percussion is performed to differentiate the presence of air or fluid or solid in the lungs. The obstruction of pulmonary artery by a blood clot results into a condition called pulmonary embolism. Either it could lead to pulmonary infection or acute respiratory distress based on the size of embolus. Segmental atelectasis, it is a condition where you see the collapse of several segments of the lung. Emphysema, it is a lung condition where the air sacs in the lungs are damaged. Over a time, the thin walls of air sacs weaken and rupture subsequently, creating a larger air spaces. So subsequently the patient will have shortness of breath. Pneumonia, as you know, it is an infection of lung. Spitting of blood derived from lung or bronchial tree is called hemolysis. So usually hemolysis is observed in case of bronchitis or lung cancer, pneumonia and tuberculosis. In case of any of these conditions, you see patient suffering from hemolysis. Bronchial asthma, it is a spasm of smooth muscles in the wall of bronchioles. So in patients with the bronchial asthma, the diameter of bronchioles will be reduced.